In this video, we're going to take a look at a feature of C# called the switch statement. And before I start talking about the switch statement, I just want to point out that it is completely unnecessary. Everything that can be done with a switch statement can also be done with an if statement. The really only advantage of the switch statement is the syntax is a little bit cleaner, so your code is a little bit easier to read. But it doesn't actually buy you any new features or capabilities that you couldn't do before. Okay, I have just opened up a new project. I called this switch statement, and it's a Windows console project. First of all, we're going to take a look at our notes. I'm going to switch over to our notes document here. Okay, so this is our notes document in Word, and this is the syntax for the switch statement. Okay, it's bold here is reserved words, and the non-bold stuff is stuff that you provide. So you have an expression here that you want to take a look at, and then you have different cases depending on the value of this expression. So if this value is this expression right here, then after the colon you put the statements that you want to execute, and normally you put a break after that because you're done. If you don't put the break in, it will go on and execute the next branch as well, and we probably don't want to do that. So and you can have as many of these as you want, and you should probably put this one on the end just in case the values that are listed up here never occur. You may get an error from the compiler, especially if you do this in a function. So these are the differences between a switch and an if. It can only test the equality condition, so we're looking to see if this expression up here is equal to one of these expressions down here. And it can only examine certain data types, integer and all the different variants of the integer, character, enumerated, which is basically integer, string, and the Boolean data type. Since, as far as I can tell, the main reason for having a switch statement in a language is to make the code cleaner and easier to read. Even though you can use a Boolean, it's only a two-way branch, and a two-way branch is probably best done with an if statement. So even though that's legal to use, I don't think you will ever use a Boolean, and most of the time you will probably use an integer here, possibly character or string, I guess, too. Okay, so now let's look at an example. I've got some sample code here so we don't have to write it all ourselves. Let's select the sample code here, and let's flip over to our program and paste it in. So in this case, we've got a string variable called letter grade. So this will be something A through F, and then we convert that into a number of points on a 4-point scale. So A is 4, B is 3, and so on. We're going to ask the user to enter a letter grade. We're going to read it in, and then we're going to assign a value to the variable points. If it's not one of those 5, we're going to put -1 in there. That'll be our way of indicating an error. And then we're going to write out what the letter grade is. We're going to write out what the points are, and we don't really need the read line because we've already got that here from our template. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Let's go ahead and run the program. It's going to ask for letter grade A through F. I'm going to type in A and hit enter, and it tells me that an A is 4 points. I'm going to hit enter again, and it takes us back into the program. Let's try it again. This time I'll try one on the other end. I'll do an F and hit enter, and it tells me an F is 0 points. We can stop the program. And this time I'm going to enter an illegal value. Let's do start, and let's do X. Okay, and we get -1. So this program appears to work. There's at least one thing we can do to fix it up a little bit here, and that is when we read in the letter, it'd be nice we didn't force them to type uppercase letters. So right now, you can see what's going to happen if I type in a lowercase letter. I'm going to type in an A here in lowercase, hit enter, and it comes back and tells me -1 because a lowercase a is not equal to an uppercase a. So what I'm going to do here is after I read it in, I'm going to do to upper. And now if I run it, I should be able to type in a lowercase a, and it should still come back and tell me that that's going to be 4 points. Okay, now we're going to modify the program a little bit. We're going to take the switch statement and we are going to put it in a function. So we will pass in a letter grade and it will return the number of points. So let's just take our switch statement here and do a Control X. And then down below main, we need to put our function shell, and it's going to be static void, and we're going to call this grade points, and we're going to pass in a string that's going to be the letter grade. I spelled letter right. And then I'm going to paste in the switch statement that I just cut out a little bit ago. Okay. Now, there's no need for an extra variable called points here, because as soon as I figure out what it is, I can return. So I'm going to put a return instruction here to return the number 4. Okay. And if I do that, I don't need a break statement here on the end. This is not void. This is going to return int. That's why I'm getting some errors down here. Okay. Down here, I'm going to return a 3. And down here, if they don't type anything valid at all, I'm going to return a -1. Right now, this error message up here is caused by the fact that I may be able to go through here without any of these being true, and in that case, there's no return instruction. But as soon as I add a return instruction here to return -1, now that error goes away. So it's a little bit simpler in the function. You don't need the word break on the end. Up here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for a letter grade, and then I'm going to, down here, I'm going to call the function. It's grade points, and I'm going to pass in the letter grade, and then I'm going to print that out. Okay. Okay, see I've got a green wavy line under this because now I'm not using that variable anymore. We can delete that. Now let's go ahead and try to run it. We should get the exact same results that we did before, except now what we've done is we put the code into a function. So let's type in an A, it should get back a 4. Okay. And since it's the same code, obviously it's going to work with other values that I type in as well. So that is one version of the switch statement. Pretty straightforward. Let's flip back over to our Word document. And down below, we've got another example here. And we're going to ask for the number of grade points. And we're going to convert that into an integer. And then we're going to take a look at the number of points here and convert it into a grade. Okay, so let's copy this code. We don't need the read line, so actually I'm going to stop this time before I even include that, and I'm just going to do Control-C. I'm going to flip back over here, and we are going to put that into a function, and this is going to return a string, and we will call this letter. I'm already using letter grade up here as a variable, so I don't want to use the same name. So we will call this grade points to letter grade. Okay, it's a little bit long, but and we're going to pass in the number of grade points. Okay. And then let's paste our code in here. Now, normally you don't do the input-output in a function, so we're going to take this code here and we're going to cut it out, and we are going to paste it in up here. And I'm going to do a little bit of separation here. And I'm not sure what happened to my cursor there, but it seems to still be working, even if it doesn't look right. Okay. So I am going to get a number of points here. If I do that, I need a variable. Okay, that should take care of that error message. Okay, I've got my I-beam cursor back now. I'm going to comment this out because we're done testing that. Let's go ahead and comment that out. And let's check this out just to make sure we didn't forget anything. So I'm asking them to enter a number from 0 to 4. And I'm going to read that in, convert it to a 32-bit integer, and store it in a variable called points. And then what I want to do is I want to call the function, and I'm going to write out the results. Okay. And this is going to return a letter grade. So I'm going to say the letter grade is. And then I'm going to put argument 0 there. And I'm going to call grade points to letter grade. And it is telling me, okay, this is grade points. And down here, I'm going to do a return in just like I did with the other one. So we got a little bit of cleaning up to do down here. And when we do, it will get rid of this because we will have a return statement on all code paths. So okay, now that is syntactically correct. We no longer need this instruction here. And I think the reason that was grayed out is because it was unreachable code. We're going to return one way or another by the time we get to this curly bracket, so there's no point in putting any code after that. So we've got a relatively straightforward function here, just a switch statement. And now what I want is I want to call that grade points to letter grade. And we're going to pass in the number of points. Okay. And I think I may have to clean this up. Let's go ahead and run it and see. Okay, so once number of grade points, and I'm going to type in a 4. It should come back and tell me that it's an A, and we're good. So this does work. I did not have to put any kind of a type specifier in there like I do with numbers. The one thing I want to clean up here is the prompt should be a right, not a right line. That'll keep the cursor up on the same line, and it'll put a little space in there to separate the prompt from whatever you type in. So another example of a switch instruction. In some languages it's called a case. In C# it's called a switch, but it also uses the word case as a big part of the